Tuesday's episode of Days of Our Lives may not deliver one massive public shock, but that may be exactly why it feels so dangerous. Because this looks like the kind of episode where the damage spreads quietly. Not through one huge reveal, but through humiliation, tension, emotional misfires, and the subtle shifts that start changing relationships before anyone fully realizes it. Because in Salem, relationships do not always fall apart in loud, dramatic scenes. Sometimes they begin to change when one person stops feeling like the safest place to land. So while Tuesday may seem quieter than some of the week's bigger spoilers, this episode could be doing something just as important. It could be redrawing emotional lines all across Salem. And once that starts happening, the fallout usually comes later. Let's start with Bonnie, because her Tuesday material may carry a quieter kind of pain, but not a lighter one. This is not a storyline built on romance or secrets. It is built on expectation. And that can be just as dangerous, especially when those expectations collapse in public. Bonnie goes ahead with the book signing even after Justin warned her, and that detail gives the scene real emotional weight. It suggests she is not just showing up for an event. She is investing belief in it. On some level, she seems to want this moment to confirm that her voice matters, that her effort matters, that people are genuinely interested in what she has created. That is why a bad turnout or awkward reception would not feel minor to her. It would feel personal. Because a book signing is supposed to offer affirmation. It is supposed to be one of those rare moments when private ambition becomes public recognition. So if Bonnie walks in expecting support and instead runs straight into disappointment, the real sting may come from what that says to her emotionally. Not just, this event went badly, but, what if I misread how much any of this actually mattered? And that is why this scene could matter beyond the embarrassment itself. In Salem, public humiliation rarely stays limited to one bad afternoon. It tends to shift how a character sees themselves. It can trigger defensiveness, insecurity, or a sudden need to regain control before the shame settles in. So Bonnie's storyline may not be important because the signing goes badly. It may be important because of who Bonnie becomes in the hours after it does. From Bonnie's disappointment, Tuesday appears to move into much sharper emotional territory with Maggie and Kate. Maggie rips into Kate, and that immediately suggests this will not be one of those routine Salem arguments that flares up and fades out. When Maggie loses patience, it usually means something has crossed a real line in her mind. Her anger tends to come with moral force behind it, which is exactly what can make her scenes so cutting. She does not just get upset. She comes in convinced. That is what makes this confrontation interesting, because Kate is one of the worst possible people to meet that kind of energy head-on. She is strong, composed, and fully capable of pushing back when challenged. She is not easily rattled, and she rarely accepts someone else's judgment without a fight. So this may become less about one woman venting and more about two powerful personalities colliding with very different ideas of what should be tolerated. Because arguments like this usually reveal more than the immediate issue. They reveal old resentment. They reveal accumulated frustration. They reveal which character has finally reached the point where silence is no longer an option. If Maggie truly unloads on Kate, then the significance may lie not only in what she says, but in the fact that she is no longer filtering it. More and more characters seem to be running out of patience. Emotional restraint is weakening. People are becoming less interested in keeping peace and more willing to voice what they actually think. That shift matters, because once multiple storylines start operating from raw frustration instead of caution, Salem usually becomes much more volatile. So Maggie's fury may not just be a sharp scene. It may be another sign that the emotional temperature in town is rising across the board. While Maggie and Kate bring the louder confrontation, Ari and Liam may carry Tuesday's more intimate tension, and in some ways, that can be even more effective. Ari presses Liam, and that small spoiler detail already tells us a lot about the emotional imbalance between them. She is moving toward clarity. He is retreating from it. She wants answers. He wants distance. That means this is no longer just about attraction or uncertainty. It is becoming a push and pull story built on mystery, caution, and emotional resistance. Liam has already signaled that Ari should not be around someone like him, which gives his behavior a darker edge. That kind of line is never casual in a soap. It suggests self-awareness, but it also suggests danger. Not necessarily physical danger, but the possibility that Liam sees himself as troubled, compromised, or carrying something he believes could hurt her. And Ari seems to feel that there is more behind his distance than he is saying. That may be exactly why she keeps pressing. Because once someone senses that avoidance is hiding something real, the emotional logic changes. Liam may think his distance is a form of protection. Ari may interpret that same distance as proof that the truth matters even more than she thought. So instead of pushing her away, his warning may end up drawing her closer. Both of them may be acting from sincerity, but their sincerity is pulling them in opposite directions. Ari may believe honesty would create connection. Liam may believe honesty would destroy it. And when two characters are moving around the same emotional center with completely different expectations, the story naturally becomes more compelling. So Tuesday may not fully expose Liam's secret yet, but it could do something just as effective. Make the audience feel that whatever he is hiding is serious enough to change the entire tone of this relationship. And once a young romantic story starts carrying that kind of warning underneath it, curiosity rises fast. As Ari and Liam move through a quieter kind of tension, Alex may be facing something more openly painful. The slow realization that love is not giving him the access he thought it would. Tuesday's spoilers say Alex confides in Gabby, and that detail may matter more than it first appears. Because when someone begins carrying relationship confusion outside the relationship itself, it usually means the private bond is no longer absorbing the pressure the way it should. Alex may still care about Stephanie deeply. He may still want to be patient, supportive, and steady. But at some point, trying without getting through begins to feel less like devotion and more like helplessness. Alex may not be turning to Gabby because he is looking for emotional escape. He may be turning to her because he is running out of ways to interpret what is happening. Stephanie keeps pulling back, and that kind of distance can become especially painful when the person on the other side believes they are doing everything right. He may feel like he is showing up for her, saying the right things, trying to give her room, trying to give her comfort, and still watching the connection weaken anyway. Because once Alex starts admitting that he does not know how to reach Stephanie anymore, the issue becomes bigger than one argument or one bad day. It becomes a question of whether he is emotionally equipped to stand beside someone whose trauma is shaping every interaction in ways he cannot fully control or even fully understand. That is why Gabby's role here could be more important than it looks. Her reaction may help define how Alex understands this moment. If she sympathizes too strongly, Alex may begin seeing the relationship as something already slipping beyond repair. If she challenges him, he may be forced to confront an even more uncomfortable possibility: that support is not always felt as support when the other person is still emotionally overwhelmed. Either way, this conversation may quietly expose something crucial. Alex is no longer just worried about Stephanie. He may be starting to fear that no matter how much he cares, he is losing his ability to matter to her in the way he wants. And once that fear settles in, relationships rarely stay stable for long. If Alex confiding in Gabby reveals one side of the fracture, Jeremy comforting Stephanie may reveal the other, and possibly the more important one. On the surface, this spoiler sounds simple. Jeremy offers comfort, Stephanie accepts it, but emotionally, scenes like this can do enormous narrative work, because they reveal where a character feels safest when they are at their most vulnerable. And that answer can matter far more than any spoken declaration. Jeremy's significance in this story comes from something very specific. He does not need Stephanie to translate her pain for him. He understands the trauma from lived experience, not observation. He was there. He felt the same fear. He carries the same memory. That creates a kind of emotional fluency that other people, even people who love her, may not be able to match. Jeremy may not be trying to replace Alex. He may not even be consciously stepping into dangerous territory. But comfort does not become meaningful because of romantic intention alone. It becomes meaningful because of timing, because of emotional precision, because it arrives in the exact form the other person can actually receive. If Stephanie feels calmer with Jeremy, less pressured with Jeremy, more understood with Jeremy, then the scene matters whether anyone calls it romantic or not. Because the real issue is no longer just whether Stephanie and Alex are struggling. It is whether Stephanie's instinctive sense of safety is beginning to shift towards someone else. And once that starts happening, the emotional balance of the storyline changes immediately. Alex may still hold the title of partner, but Jeremy may begin to occupy the role that matters more in moments of crisis, the person she reaches for first. Not because it happens loudly, but because it happens gradually. One person becomes linked to effort, misunderstanding, and emotional strain. The other becomes linked to relief, recognition, and quiet understanding. By the time anyone fully realizes that pattern has formed, the relationship at the center may already be in much deeper trouble than it appears. So Tuesday's episode may be doing something very smart with Stephanie, Alex, and Jeremy. Rather than forcing a dramatic collapse too early, it may simply be showing us where Stephanie's emotional gravity is beginning to move. And in Salem, once emotional gravity changes, the rest of the fallout usually follows. So overall, Tuesday, April 14th may be one of those Days of Our Lives episodes where the biggest developments are not the loudest ones. Bonnie may face public disappointment that leaves a deeper bruise than expected. Maggie may unleash a confrontation that exposes how much frustration has been building beneath the surface. Ari may push Liam closer to a truth he clearly does not want to face. Alex may begin to realize that caring for Stephanie and reaching Stephanie are no longer the same thing. And Jeremy may step into an emotional role that could become much more significant as the week unfolds. What makes this episode so effective is that it does not need one giant twist to feel important. Because nearly every storyline moves. And on this show, movement is often more dangerous than chaos. Once emotional positions start shifting, the fallout usually arrives later, stronger, messier, and much harder to stop. So Tuesday may not be about immediate explosions. It may be about the quiet turning points that make the explosions inevitable.